Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard joined by my co-host Sam.
Hello.
This is episode 44 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. Every myth and legend has some basis in reality. Do the old ones speak the truth? Join us as we find out if we should listen to the elder gods. So, we are doing folk horror movies, and no, not the bees. We'll get to that franchise. That's franchise? I guess a franchise? I don't know.
Well, they've remade it enough times to make it its own franchise.
Yes. So tonight we'll be discussing the Witch, Antlers, and Unwelcome, the newest one in this category that we were able to find. And they are all very different.
Yeah.
So we'll do our normal thing. We'll go through, recap each movie, first thoughts, all that stuff. And this week, our out of 10s are naked people in the woods. For some reason the spell check changed it to name, but it should be naked. I'm looking at the outline. There you go. Thank you. Yeah, this is our first entry really into folk horror. Plenty more out there for us to do too. I don't know about you, Sam. I'm a big fan of folk horror because all the ancient customs and beliefs, and seeing all the stuff that's not Christian based, really, it's the pagan side of things.
I like it a lot as long as they don't make it like vilify other cultures, which it's rare when they do, but it does happen.
Correct, and that's always been the big thing, is that in the, say, Christian driven America, that they do vilify pagan religions, which is a shame because there's so much interesting stuff there, history and lore to go with them. All right, so let's start off with the Witch. We call it that because there was no W in the time period this takes place. And that's how the title card is too. It's two uppercase V's. So yeah, this takes place puritanical times, before America, I'd say, right? Say like 1600, early 1600s.
Yeah, well, yeah, before 1776. Yes, it is before
Yes.
before the colonies declared their independence. Yes, this is, New World type stuff. So probably late 1600s.
Yeah, because in the movie, the family talks about they want to go back home to England, so they're not. They literally came there on a boat.
Yes,
that generation. Maybe. I don't know if the kids may. We'll see. So let's get into the recap. So, essentially the movie starts off with the family that we are introduced to, and they are essentially being expelled from their community for being too strict. The dad is essentially saying, yeah, I'd be stricter if I could. And right off the bat, I find that pretty amazing that a community, not even town, but a group of people would kick out and ostracize a family for being too strict in the puritanical times.
Well, to be fair, they don't ever say what the belief is that is so heinous that they have to leave.
Correct.
Obviously we don't know. We're assuming that they believe something stricter than the town. Why the town would care, I don't know. Especially like Puritan. They were like big on like, hey, you can be as strict as you want and you'll be respected for it. I don't know. I don't know what it could be. Something happened in there. Something happened that was of a religious nature that caused them to exile them.
Yes. And they were exiled pretty damn far. To the edge of the woods, which for anyone listening that knows that the woods, especially the folk horror genre and puritanical times, is evil. It's dark and you don't go into the woods. And you pretty much see that in all three of these movies. Don't go into the woods in different areas and different time frames. So we're introduced to, man, I know Thomason's name. That's about all I know. I can remember. You have the mother, who is played by Aunt. She's was it Robin in Game of Thrones?
Yeah, she played Kat's little sister, the Lady of the Eyrie. She was
Yes.
John Aaron's wife. Yeah.
And just imagine that character, but here, and that's how annoying she is.
Well, her name was Kat in this too. I think her name was like Catherine.
Yeah.
Her name was
Yeah.
Catherine. The dad's name, they only said it once, and I don't remember what it is. He was just like
No.
the dad figure. They
Correct.
did say it once, like that. I think the mom said it to him once.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it
Let's
was.
call him Rob.
The older son was Caleb.
Caleb.
And then the fraternal twins were Jonas and Mercy.
And stars Anna Taylor Joy as Thomason, without her looking like she does now. I'd say she's almost unrecognizable.
Well, this is the first thing I remember seeing her in. I don't know if she was in anything. I'm sure she was in stuff before this, but this is the first thing I remember seeing her.
Yes. So yeah, it was Thomason. So yeah, the family's kicked out. You see that they're at their homestead and seemingly doing pretty well for themselves. Built the house and all that, have a farm going, all that jazz. So Thomason, it's kind of a kicker to start off with. Thomason is playing peekaboo essentially with her baby brother, who was Samuel was just born, and on the third peekaboo, he disappears.
Yeah,
gone, without sound, without a trace. She kind of follows the crying into the woods and gets into there, but doesn't go too far. I'd say, right?
Well, yeah, because everybody's scared of the woods, and that not like she can see him, just hears them for a while, and then stops hearing them when she stops running.
Yeah. And then we are introduced to a very naked person, has the baby, and then all of a sudden, it's seemingly mortar and pestle to mush, and then starts rubbing the unbaptized baby's blood all over her naked body. Now, in my assumption, I don't know if this is correct, this is essentially the idea of bathing in virgin blood. Is she the one that comes back as the youthful one later? Do you think? That was my implication that I
got. She is. She's also the one that shows up in the barn later.
Okay. So Thomason is accused of not watching. They're saying, "Oh, a wolf took him," because that's the only thing that makes sense, right? What else would be out there? There's no people around there, so it couldn't have been a person. And for it to be that sneakily, a wolf came and took the baby and ate it. Catherine, the mother,
is a dingo.
That's a dingo. Yeah. The mother, Catherine, is very upset. She's crying and starts being very accusatory of Thomason because it was her fault, as she blames her.
It's unfair to blame her, but I understand where that's coming from. Like, how do you lose a baby that can't walk?
Correct. It's very hard. So a lot of crying and praying by the mother for the baby to come back. We see that Caleb and Dad looked over the corn crops, and there's definitely like a fungus or infection going there, and they're rotting. So it's seemingly their crops aren't going to make it. So they go, okay, well, if we can't grow our food, we have to go hunt it. So they take the son out. He's talking about like, oh, I think it was the wolf. We should try to find it. They have a dog, which is pretty interesting. And essentially, so they're practicing it. Talking about like stuff not to tell your mother that this is what's going on. Don't like. So Dad clearly has secrets or things that he doesn't want to tell his wife, and seems to be a little bit less strict, I would say, than the mother. But it seems to be that he's the one that got them cast out. He's teaching his son to hunt, and clearly the gun was loaded improperly. because Caleb's unable to shoot the rabbit there, and the dad does it and gets like powder blown back into his eye.
Okay. Like those guns were extremely difficult to use
Yeah.
back then. I mean, because it's not even a flintlock. Like this is back in the old school where they had a fuse.
Yeah.
So like they literally had a fuse that when you pulled the trigger, the fuse would go down into the little tray that's supposed to hold the powder. And you had to wait for the fuse to ignite the powder. You had to hold the gun steady that whole time.
Yes.
So like you pull the trigger and you have to wait like several seconds before that gun fires. So yeah, he probably just put a little too much powder in the tray. Well, I mean, to be fair, the kid was doing it, and it seemed like this is the first time the kid was doing it. So
yeah. Yeah. So anyway, so they come back empty-handed, and they are. Is this when they're eating at the dinner table, essentially just passing off a big piece of bread, just ripping off because that's all they get to eat is bread.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The dad does tell Caleb that how they got these traps to try to trap animals, and I don't know if they talk about the gun or not, but anyway, how he got the traps and the stuff to do the hunting and the trapping in the woods was he traded away the mom's silver cup, which was like the only like valuable thing they had.
That she probably came back, that she probably took with her from England.
Yeah, she did. She said it was from her family. It was like an heirloom from the family. That was like the only thing left. They were living in like a hovel essentially. That was like the one nice thing that they had.
Right.
And the dad traded that, but of course didn't tell her about it.
And the traps keep getting the traps they're checking keep getting unset, so they have to keep resetting them, which like something's coming by and like setting them off on purpose to make sure they can't hunt or get food. And the cup comes back to play. I want to point out right now, this movie is very hard to understand sometimes.
Well, yeah, they're speaking in like correct like speech for the time. So it's not quite like Shakespearean English, but it's still earlier English than we're used to. So they speak in weird tones and weird, they use words differently and stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot more formal.
Yes. Yeah, because I was watching it with the wife. She's like, can we turn subtitles? Because if there's anything making the noise, it really gets off the tone and the words that you're listening to in this movie tremendously.
Yeah, I had to turn the fan off. Yeah,
you can't fill in the words that you may have missed.
Right. Yeah, I had to turn the fan off and I had to concentrate. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck they're saying.
But good on Robert Eggers for being so precise and being so upholding to making this a time period piece. He probably put more detail into this than most people do for this time period.
Oh, definitely.
Hands down.
Definitely.
Yeah, so anyway, I think the mom asks Thomasin to get the cup, and she's like, it's not there, I can't find it. She's like, oh, you took it. And like, so mom's already blaming her, and then the dad finally goes, all right, it was me.
No, he doesn't.
I did it. Oh, it's later, isn't it?
Yeah, he doesn't do it. He lets her think that it's like, he lets his wife think it's Thomasin. He tries to shut her down, like, all right, she said she doesn't have it, let it go. But he doesn't say that he took it yet.
Oh, that's later. Sorry. Yeah. There's something between the hunting and the dinner. He comes back, and the mom is upset with her still because, the kids are playing with Black Phillip. Let me just put this out now. The twins were super annoying.
Yeah. And Black Phillip is a big black goat.
Right. And black creatures, especially black goats, are evil in this time frame.
they're not evil. It's just
perceived as evil.
Well, they're the children are making up a story that he is.
Correct. Like, we talked to him, they're like saying the stuff like, oh, we commanded to speak to us and stuff like that, like you would do in a devil witchcraft ritual. But yeah, so the dad comes back. He has to chop wood in just basically a towel. and because Thomas has to go wash his clothes from, I'd say, the powder and just being out in the woods, and then the twins start, going, "Oh, you're a witch." Caleb goes there and is very fascinated by his older sister's breasts.
Okay, I mean, yeah. To be fair, the kid is like, 12. He's like going through puberty, and literally the only people around him are his family.
Yes.
So it's not like he's trying to be creepy. He's trying to stop himself. It's just, showing that, those hormones are hitting.
Yeah. So yeah, the sister's saying, "Oh, sister went too far with playing into, yes, she's a witch. Of course I'm a witch. I sacrificed Samuel to the devil." Then of course tell that to your two annoying siblings, they're gonna believe you, and then kind of think that as well. Then we get to the dinner. Yeah, this is where the dad doesn't say anything about the cup and just lets his daughter take all the heat for the missing cup, even though he knew full well, and Caleb knew full well where the cup was, but no one said anything. And then, surprisingly, at night, the parents have a separate bedroom, which doesn't seem like it's always the case in that time frame.
Well, okay, to be fair, their separate bedroom is a curtain. They have a curtain separating the dining table from their bedroom.
Yes.
That's not a room.
Well, the kids sleep on straw upstairs.
Well, the kids are in the attic, yeah.
Yeah. But they hear her saying, "Hey, we're going to essentially give away Thomasin because she's of age. The mom says she's becoming a problem, so let's get rid of her." And they kind of agree to that. So, makes sense. Let's see here.
Well, and then in the morning, because all the kids hear that.
Yeah.
So then in the morning, Caleb gets up before everybody else and decides that he's gonna go into town
by himself.
Yeah, he's gonna go. Well, his first plan was to go to the town to try to get help, to try to see, basically to try to like get them money and supplies so that she doesn't have to leave, because he likes her, so he doesn't want her to leave. Thomasin catches him doing so and basically says, "No, you can't go unless you bring me." And he's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, if you don't take me with you, I'm going to tell right now." So they both go out at first they're going to the town, but that changes quickly.
Yeah. Essentially a rabbit comes in and it's just like what horses go crazy.
It's a devil rabbit. It's a devil rabbit.
Devil rabbit, yes. Their dog chases it, then Caleb chases their dog. And then Thomasin gets flung off a horse.
Yep.
And gets knocked unconscious. Then we get Caleb kind of wandering through the woods. He meets a seemingly witch in a red cape with herpes. That's what I'm assuming he has when he comes back.
I'm pretty sure those were bite marks. It wasn't herpes. Herpes doesn't show up in 24 hours.
But still, then he's drawn in because he's being sinful and lustful and kisses the woman in red. Yeah. Essentially,
well, that's what. Yeah. So Thomasin wakes up alone, and then she wanders back and makes it back home. Because the dad is out looking for her. So she ends up finding the dad. They go back, and of course Caleb isn't with her. And now the mom is like super upset because now she lost two of her children. Right. So the mom is like, beside herself and freaking out. The dad's like trying to calm her down, but like obviously stuff is bad, right?
And this is where he admits that he took the cup to sell it for hunting supplies.
Right. To quiet her down, to get her off of Thomasin's back. And then she's like calm with Thomasin at that point, and then Thomasin then says, I'm going to go set down the goats for the night, which is the one thing that I guess it looks like the mom doesn't like doing. It seems like it's her job, but she doesn't like doing it, so she goes to do that for her. And then when she goes out to I don't know what she does. She pets the goats until they go to sleep. I don't know what she's doing out there. But when she's out there, then Caleb comes back.
Yeah,
and he's like
naked.
naked and like rubbing his body all weird up against the fence. Like I don't know what the hell was going on there.
It's almost like he's in a trance and in delirium. I'd say.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's they bring him in, they lay him in bed. Then the next day, the twins tell Thomason like, "Hey, it was Black Phillip. We caused them to be sick." So the Black Thomas told the twins that it was Thomason that made Caleb sick. That's all his fault. Yeah, and then Thomason goes to start milking the goat, and blood is coming out from the udder. I think she also getting the eggs, and like the eggs are kind of like bloody and unborn chicks and stuff like that. So
right, which in those days are signs of witch.
Correct.
Like that. That's what they would say. Like
bad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They say when those things happen, that means a witch is
nearby. Right. So yeah, I think Caleb says he was just out in the woods because he used to go look for apples for food. That was all lie, but he kind of wakes up and then coughs up like a rotten apple. And starts, they start praying while he's screaming and ranting. And then they're trying to pray, and then one of the twin girl goes, "I don't remember my prayers," which is another sign of witchcraft, making people unable to say the prayers. Right, and then she kind of goes, "Oh, it's Thomason. She told me she was a witch. She said she did it," which comes to bite her in the ass. And then the twins kind of fall as well.
Well, Thomason goes over to him and be like, "Stop it!" And then as soon as Thomason gets close, they start like freaking out,
right?
Like, pretending like Thomason is doing things to them.
Which, if anyone who read the Crucible, is exactly what they do at the trials.
The Salem witch trials, like witch trials of this time period. That's what, if someone tells you they're being controlled by the witch and they act goofy when the witch is around, it's like surefire evidence that they're a witch.
Correct. Caleb then stops and then says, take me, O Lord," and then dies.
Yeah. But he also he talks about like making out with Jesus. Like I don't know. That went off the rails there. I don't know I think everybody else was like, what?
Yeah.
But at that point, the dad is like, Thomas. He brings Thomason outside, and he's like, "Okay, are you a witch or what?"
Right.
And she's like, "No, I'm not a witch." He's like, "Well, look at all this evidence. Like, all this evidence is pointing to you being a witch." And she's like, "No, like the twins are faking it. They're just messing with me. Like it's not true. They're trying to get back at me for making fun of them earlier." And so he goes in there and he like grabs one of the twins and he like says, "I want to smash you against the rock." And then all of a sudden, miraculously, the kids are fine. So he basically realizes that they're all being asses. And so he throws them out in the barn and then nails the door shut so they can't get out.
Right. His last living children, he stays up with the potential evil goat and blood-filled creatures, right?
Right.
Yeah, so essentially then they're saying they bury Caleb. He sees that Thomason sees her dad's asking for Jesus to punish him for his pride and all that stuff. Save his children, blah blah blah. They see this is when all of a sudden they hear a noise. Middle of the night, the children hear a noise, and it is the old witch drinking from the udder of the bloody goat.
Yep,
fully naked still. And then just kind of like goes to attack the twins. Meanwhile, in the room, Catherine wakes up and sees a vision of Caleb holding Samuel, and the baby's crying, so she goes to feed it like she was seeing. Then we pull back, and see it's a crow or a raven pecking out her breast, essentially feasting on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they wake up.
Well, the dad goes out there to check on them in the morning, and he sees that all of the planks have been knocked off the barn. All
Yeah,
the goats are scattered around, dead and ripped open, and blood everywhere. And Thomason is
twins
just
are
like
gone.
laying there. Yeah, twins are gone, and Thomason's just like laying there, like slowly waking up. And
Yeah.
as he goes to like do something, he gets like straight up stabbed by Black Phillip. Yeah, he like straight
Hits
up
him.
stabs him
Yeah.
with his horns.
Yeah, knocks him, hits him once. He starts to try to fight him, hits him into the woodpile, and that's the end of Dad.
Yep.
Then Thomason tries to take care of him. So with blood in her hands, the mom comes out screaming at her, like, "You killed your father, you blood in your hands," and the mom's completely lost it and starts choking Thomason, and Thomason just straight up stabs her a few times in the head, and Mother's dead.
Yep.
So now she goes and then falls asleep, head down, like heads up 7-Up style on the kitchen table, or the way we used to sleep in study hall on the desks. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Wakes up at night. She talks to Black Phillip and say, I conjure you to give me your name. And then we start hearing some weird, it's seemingly out of place whispering. I know it's supposed to be out of place, but it's like, it feels odd to a point, like it not done well, I felt. Essentially Black Phillip is talking to her, do you see the book? And then he changes into half man, half goat with like a goat leg, goat arm. And it's like, hey, what do you want? I can give you a pretty dress to be fulfilled. Do you want that? Yes. Write your name. I can't write it. Well, let me help you with my hands. And then, okay, take off your clothes. Follow me into the woods. And then she meets up with a bunch of other naked women around a bonfire, and they're all chanting, and they all kind of flew up into the sky.
Well, they're party girls.
Yes,
they're having a good time out there.
Yes, end of movie.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember if I saw this in theaters. I don't know if I did. But my first thought was, man, these people are really hard to understand.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But overall, I'm like, okay, this is a pretty good movie. Like, it's better than what it should have been. And I think it's part of the period piece that went into it. All the acting, like I said, the twins were supposed to be annoying, and they were quite annoying. The mother, like I said, just imagine her character from Game of Thrones, but in Puritan state, and that's how crazy and much you don't like her. So I don't like her in this movie in any way, shape, or form.
Why not?
Annoying as hell. And I probably watched this, I don't know, every year and a half since it came out. So I've seen this a handful of times, and it's not that I'm catching anything new. It's just a really well crafted movie, and we'll get into my low points. But what were your first thoughts on this? Were you back into horror at this point in time this came out?
Yeah, I watched it when it came out. I didn't see it in the theater. I know that, okay. But I saw it right when it came out. Because I remember people saying that, oh, this is, it's, good. It's, kind of like an old timey time period piece, right? And there's a lot of interest. There's enough interesting things going for it to where I did watch it. But yeah, I know I was back into horror around that time. I think it was around the same time as like It Follows came out.
Yeah.
It was around that same time.
Kind of, you came back into horror because we had a good renaissance of horror movies in 2015.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like. I mean, but what was your first thoughts and rewatch wise?
The rewatch, I think the one thing that I didn't remember before was when the Samuel was taken. I didn't remember that they actually showed the witch.
Yes.
Like I remember it being more of like a mystery kind of thing as to like what was going on. I didn't remember the witch there. Obviously, the witch was there. I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention or what, but again, I was rewatching and I'm like, I don't remember this being explained to me this early. Like, I thought it was like more of like a end. You didn't find out what was happening until the end. And I guess that's true for most of what's going on. But
Yeah.
I thought the baby part of it, I thought was just kind of like a mystery, and that's how the whole thing started. But I don't remember the witch being there. I mean, other than I mean, it was just good. I enjoyed it. Otherwise, that was the only thing that was different on the rewatch.
Is this only your second time seeing it then?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Okay. No, but I mean, like I said, the attention to detail of the clothes, of the tools, of the dialogue was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they did a fantastic job. I mean, yeah, the whoever the costume design was, I mean, again, they were all like, like correctly like worn out, like because back then people only had one set of clothes, and like the dad showed, he was chopping wood in a sheet because his one set of clothes was being washed, and that's how it was back then. You didn't have enough money to have multiple sets of clothes. Right. So everybody had just their one set, and that was it. And that's why the kids are wearing like kind of like clothes that's like are too big for them, or kind of like that don't fit right. Yeah, again, because you have to make do with what you got.
Right.
But no, yeah, everything was like dirty and worn out, and again, it just whoever did it did a very good job of keeping it authentic ish.
Yeah. Right. That roll into my highlights. Yeah. Authenticism was spot on, I believe. And it really made you feel like you were dealing with a witch in that time period. Like the insanity, the crap that people would immediately jump to because, things didn't go right. Hardships happened. It's easier to blame someone else than just it being nature or anything like that because especially in the time period, God wouldn't let anything happen to you like this. So it has to be the work of something evil trying to stop you from surviving and living. Now, was that really the case? Was Black Phillip causing all these things? Probably.
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, I guess that's what happens, right? I mean, again, this is, literally the underwriting underneath the Vivitch is a New England folk tale. So like this is supposed to be a folk tale, a folk tale from that time period. So of course them saying like, oh, this is how the devil gets you, is he backs you into a corner to where you have no other choice. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of sucks. Like, what else are you gonna do? But that's but if you're looking at the Old Testament Bible, that's what they used to do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look at the book of Job. I mean, it was, let's see if we can torture a guy to give in to the devil.
Yep.
And they did it to him like his whole life. I mean, that was the whole thing. So yeah, you back somebody into a corner to see if they're true children of God or whatever. But yeah, I mean, that sucks. Basically, you basically got rid of this girl's entire family. She has nothing left. Like, what is she going to do? Run the farm by herself?
Right.
No. I mean, like, other people are going to find out that all of her family is dead and they're going to blame her. So, I mean, if she goes back to
accuse her of being a witch.
Right. Yeah. She goes back to the town. She's going to be burned as a witch anyway. I mean, there's no way for her to survive this. So, like,
no.
Literally, if either she just dies or, basically she would have to kill herself, which is, again, a sin.
Yep.
So, like, yeah, there's no way out. So, yeah, again, I don't know what you're supposed to learn from that story. you know what I mean? What are you supposed to learn? Like, she didn't do anything wrong.
No. And she was not a witch until the very end.
She was not a witch at all. She was like trying to tell people she wasn't a witch. I guess maybe it's a cautionary tale about don't think people are witches without real proof or whatever, or something. Yeah. Maybe that's the real story. It wasn't her story, even though she was like the main character. The folk tale, the thing you're supposed to learn is not her POV, it's everybody else's. Don't judge before you know.
Right. You're stronger together than apart.
Right. Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's what they were trying to learn. I don't know.
Right. So what were your highlights?
Yeah, I mean, the highlights is obviously costumes, sets, and all that kind of stuff. It was fantastically done. I would say, I mean, even the performances of everybody. I mean, I think everybody did an outstanding job. I mean, the kids were annoying, but they were supposed to be annoying, right? That was that was their purpose, and they were exactly that. They were annoying, but they were supposed to be. Every scene that they're in, they're annoying.
Right.
That was what they're supposed to be. It was like everybody else was great. Mom, Dad, Thomason, Caleb, they were perfect. They did exactly what they were supposed to. I also liked, I mean, just the atmosphere that's out there, like the kind of foreboding of the wood, but it's not like they don't superficially put any like blackness or darkness or anything like over the woods. It just looks like regular woods.
Right.
There's nothing changed about it. It's just, that ominous kind of, feeling there. And also that the sound in this is most of the time there's no sound at all. Like there's not really a score. Like most of the time it's just very, very quiet, but it's like when they need you to feel like on edge, there's like this weird kind of like grating, like screeching kind of chorusy stuff that happens to make you uneasy.
Yeah.
Which I thought was done really well.
Do you want to roll into your low points then?
Sure. Poor Fowler.
Yep.
Poor dog was just
he was
trying
just
to,
a good boy.
he was just trying to hunt a rabbit in the woods. And he got killed by the mean old witch.
He was a good boy.
Yes, he was.
Now, was that your only low point?
Yeah, no. Otherwise, I mean, yeah. There's not really other low points that I could find.
This isn't necessarily for me a low point, but I know we've discussed this multiple times. Is the ending of this? I think it would have been. I said just my opinion. More impactful and more mysterious if we didn't know that the witches were actually real. I think if they had Black Phillip just speaking to her and we didn't hear it, and her just kind of wandering off, and that would have been it. We didn't need to see her go into the woods. We didn't need her to meet the Coven. We didn't need to see her flying.
Well, that's a folktale, though. Folktales have to have an ending.
Yeah.
Folktales aren't just like amorphous, we don't know what happens. We lost that last page. They don't do that.
Right. I'm just saying from a horror movie standpoint, to leave more mystery into it, to make you not know, because the idea in this time period was, well, let's face it, the witches weren't real, but to have more mystery behind it, whether was she a witch or not. So it's a minor critique. It'd been interesting to see that ending just like that, but
yeah. No, again, I mean, yeah, it's a bad ending regardless, because no matter what she did, she was going to die, right? I mean, like she could have I'm gonna make it on my own in the forest, right? She would have died of exposure or something, right? She kills herself. That's a sin, right? She goes to hell anyway. She becomes a witch. Okay. Now at least she gets to have fun for a while and then go to hell. or she could go back to the town and die innocently, but everyone else thinks she's a witch.
Yes.
Right. So, I mean, what's the good outcome then?
Damned if you, damned if you don't.
Right. I mean, there's literally nothing else you can do. I mean, she could run to the next town, but I'm sure word will spread, I mean, gossip is the only thing people have back then.
Yeah.
They don't have, soap operas to watch.
Nope. All right. So, naked people in the woods out of 10 for me. This is, like I said, we've been saying, we're praising this movie a lot. It's a damn good movie. It really is. I'm giving it 9 naked people in the woods out of 10. I mean, it's just really well crafted and better than most horror movies that we watch. What about you?
This movie I will give 8 naked people in the woods. It is very good. It is definitely rewatchable. It's definitely, fun. And like I said, when watching the second time, I was still just as interested as I was the first time.
Yeah.
I personally think his movie after this was fantastic. I like that one better than this one, but that one's not technically horror. So,
Gotcha. What was his movie after this?
well, maybe not right after this, but his movie that I like the most is The Northman.
Okay. Oh, he did The Lighthouse next, which is technically horror.
Yeah, Lighthouse is really good too. If you
And
haven't
he's
seen
doing
that,
and he's doing Nosferatu.
is he? He's doing remaking
Yeah.
it again.
Uh huh.
Is it going to be Willem Dafoe again?
I hope so.
I heard they were making. Aren't they? They said they were making
It's-
another
it's-
Shadow of the
it's-
Vampire, right?
It's Bill Skarsgård,
Okay.
which should still be good.
Well, yeah, he seems to be like the new guy to put in a suit and be scary.
I mean, Willem Dafoe is in it. So.
Well, you ever see Shadow of the Vampire?
No.
Shadow of the Vampire is a movie about the making of Nosferatu.
Oh yeah. Where they find out that Max,
Yeah,
is like
Max
the actual
Shrek.
vampire.
Yeah, Max
Is an
Shrek
actual vampire.
is an actual vampire, and they're filming him not in makeup. That's how he really looks. And
Right.
and Willem Dafoe is in that movie. That's why I said it would be funny if he came back to do him again.
No, he's in the movie, but he's not playing Count Warlock.
Well, at least he gets to come back.
Yes. All right. Why don't you bring us into our next movie, Antlers?
Antlers, starring Kerry Russell and Jesse Plemons. And then
No one else.
and the old native guy that's in everything that
Oh,
has an old
yeah.
native guy. I don't know his
He was
name.
in- He was in Last of Us.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Playing an old native guy. Like I said, he's always the old native guy.
Yes.
But yeah, that's him. And yeah, he plays a great character. Well, we'll get into that.
Is he One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest? Is he Indian Joe?
Not in the original.
Okay.
I don't know if there may have been some remake, but not in the original because he would have been probably age would have probably been okay, but no, I don't believe that was him because he was a lot taller and bigger.
Okay. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, yeah. So Antlers. So we start off with a kid kind of wandering through a abandoned mine, kind of like
Yeah.
facility. And he makes his way back to his like pickup truck right before his dad comes running out, and he puts some stuff in the back of the truck, and what it looks like kind of miscellaneous tools and stuff. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be back. You just don't leave this truck." And he goes back in. It appears that the guy's like, at that time, it looks like he's just like scavenging stuff that was left behind. Maybe he's gonna sell it, right? And then he goes back in and he puts on a gas mask and he heads down into the actual mine, and we find out that no, he's cooking meth. He's cooking
Yes,
meth
it is.
with his partner, and they got like the little plastic hut, and you see all the like the medicine that they're making the meth out of and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so they're making meth and they start hearing noises, like animal noises. And so they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" So they're they go down this one like path in the mine, and there's like all these like medicine bags hanging from the ceiling, and they're like, "Oh, this is it's scary. We should go this way." So the one guy turns around, but the other guy keeps going, and then we hear like an attack and screaming, and then it just cuts. And it cuts to Kerry Russell is a teacher. This is like a very rural town.
Oregon town.
Yeah, and like on the Oregon coast. So like, her class of what, like, I don't know, 12 kids.
Something like
it
that. Yeah.
might be like the entire school because they seem like they're of kind of different ages, but that might have just been casting. I don't know. But anyway, it's a small class, so it's a rural area. Anyway, and she's kind of teaching, it feels like English, right? She's talking about like myths and legends and folklore and stuff like that. She's trying to get the kids to talk about different legends and blah, blah, blah. And she keeps calling on this one kid who, the casting director nailed it, right? Because if you think, okay, what would a child of a meth head look like?
Yeah.
Nailed it. Okay,
Yeah.
this kid, and this is like, if you think of what does a kid of a meth head look like, this kid is exactly that. Again, perfect casting for this kid.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So she finally, I think it's over a couple of days, but anyway, she finally gets him to like talk about the story that he was writing about, and it's like he talks about how his like three bears go into woods, and then like one bear gets sick, and then starts like getting violent and attacking the other bears, and then one of the other little bears gets sick, and so the last bear has to like lock them up for their own good, so they don't make anybody else sick or whatever. It's like a terrible sounding story, and you can tell that Kerry Russell is getting worried about this kid, right? So yeah, she's kind of concerned about the kid. She's trying to find out more about him. We also find out that she is living in the house that she grew up in with her brother. Her brother is the sheriff, played by Jesse Plemons. Now he's, relatively, youngish for a sheriff. He took over when the other sheriff retired, but it was basically because no one else was going to do it. Like, it's not like he wanted to do it. It was like no one else would do it.
As you said, like no one else wanted this
right,
job.
yeah, like right, yeah, no one else wanted it, so that's it. And his deputy is Rory Cochrane, who I think is like criminally underused in this movie. Because he's been in a lot of cool stuff, and he's a good actor, but yeah, he's like, he might have like 3 lines in this whole movie.
Yeah,
not a lot.
That's about it.
Yeah, not a lot. So anyway, so we find out that she's moved back in this house. Like, her and her brother are at kind of like a weird like relationship, because the mom died when she was young, and the dad was alive later on, and she basically, like, as soon as she turned 18, she like left because she couldn't be in the house anymore. There was definitely some abuse going on. As far as what it was, I don't know. There's a lot of weird hints as to what it was. Like, there was like, she's like playing the piano, and then there's like, she has like visions of the dad coming up and like, rubbing her shoulders and her neck. And then she has like weird visions of him like curled up in a fetal position on a bed, like hugging a teddy bear and crying, but he's naked. So it's weird. That doesn't actually tell you that there was like sexual abuse going on, but I'm pretty sure there was, and I'm pretty sure that's
implied.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why she left, because he was like all messed up. So he was doing these things, but it seemed to be like he was regretting it, or what, I don't know. So as soon as she became of age, she took off for California. And she's been gone ever since then. And so there's like, kind of like weird blood between her and her brother, because she's like, well, I was getting abused, so I had to leave. And he was kind of like, well, what do you think happened after you left? Right. But anyway, the dad died recently. So that's why she came back to like help the brother out, and for them to be together again, because again, now that the dad wasn't there, there was nothing getting in their way. But there's still kind of like an uneasy ground, right? It's kind of a new thing for them. Anyway. So she is now trying to figure out what is going on with this kid. And the kid, we get the kid's point of view, and we see him like go home, and he's like, putting extra locks and bolts on this door. And we hear like banging and growling and all kinds of horrible things happening behind this door. And we know that his dad and his brother are both in there. And they're like trying to get out, and it seems to be like they like want to attack him, and he's keeping him in there for his own safety. And he's also bringing them like roadkill to eat, and like
anything dead.
His dad, anything that's dead that technically consists of meat, which is like a raccoon. I think he brings him like an old raccoon. Anyway, so the dad just eats this raccoon like raw, and then when the dad is eating, he can like go talk to his little brother, who seems kind of sort of normal-ish, at least at this point. He can like still talk and stuff, but he's like obviously sick. He looks sick. But yeah, so he's like giving him like treats and snacks and stuff, and but then as soon as the dad like finishes eating, he like kind of scares him off, and he has to run down and lock him back in again. Well, we don't really know what happened at this point. They don't give us the story of what happened there until later. So Carrie Russell is, taking an interest in this kid. She like follows him home, like trying to figure out what's going on. Um, he catches her following him. They try to have some ice cream, and he opens up a little bit to her, but as soon as she starts pressing about his home life, he just shuts down and runs away. She does end up going to the house when the kid isn't there. And she hears like, growling and weird noises coming from inside the house. So she tries to report it to the police. But the police are like, well, we can't just go there. Like you went there, like, illegally. We can't do anything about that. So she goes to the principal, who is Shanice from Uncle Buck.
I didn't realize that.
That's the only other thing. The only other thing that I knew her from is, she was Shanice from Uncle Buck. And she tells the principal, like, look at these drawings that he's doing, because he's making these drawings of like, these animals like tearing
creatures,
things apart, and blood and death and all that. And she's like, I tried to go to their house. I'm trying to call them. I'm not getting any answer. Like, the kid is like, looks like he's not doing well. We need to like check on him. She's like, okay, I'll go check on him as soon as I can. And then we see her go to the house. She goes, pulls up just like Carrie Russell did. And then goes to the house, but she goes further in the house. And she keeps, like kind of looking. She finds the door that's like latched shut. And she opens the door and goes all the way up into like the attic, and basically gets attacked by the dad. And obviously things aren't good. So the kid comes home, he sees what happened, and he tries to hide it, right? He locks him back in there, and he like puts a big tarp over her car, hoping that, people won't see it. And essentially, basically, Carrie Russell figures out, they figure out that she's missing. They're like, okay, well, what can we do? And they find out that, I think she says, oh, the last time I talked to her, I told her to go check out this house. And they're like, okay, well, we'll go check out that house. And then like at the same time that's happening, this kid that was like kind of bullying the meth kid, basically, they're going back and forth, kind of, messing with each other. The bully is not taking it well. And so the bully kind of like, attacks him, or he's going to attack him. He like kind of gets in his way when he's on his way home. But he's close to the meth kid's house anyway. So, which is weird because they show him walking a really long distance home. So like that kid would have had to really walk a long distance and then wait in like this remote area. That's odd. Anyway, so he's out there, and as like the kids like starts to confront the meth kid, and then this like huge monster like comes out of the woods and attacks him. Right, we don't get to see anything at that point, but we do hear it, right. And we kind of see it blurry in the background of like this kid getting torn apart. But it seems to ignore the kid, the meth kid. Then the meth kid essentially goes back home. And at this point, this is when the police go and check out the house, because Carrie Russell goes there again and finds the principal's car under the tarp. And he goes, okay, like police need to come here because obviously, something's up, like she's in there. So they search the house and they find, first the old sheriff, who is the old native guy, finds a dead body in the woods. Just kind of an aside type thing. And this dead body is the other meth guy. So, the dad was the one meth guy who's, apparently something wrong with him. He's locked in a room. The other meth guy was torn in half and has like obviously been like eaten.
Burnt.
And burned. Yeah. So that's kind of the introduction we get to the old sheriff. And then that's the first notification that we get that something awry is going on. Anyway, so they get to this house and they look in the house and they find the dead body of the principal, who has been, again, eaten. And they find the body of the dad, but the dad is like, it's like a shell of his body, and it looks like something burst out from inside of it. Like it looks like he kind of threw it off like a molting spider. But they do notice that they're still able to like check dental records, I guess. and they find out that that is the dad. So the dad is dead, the principal's dead, and now they're they don't know what else to do. The kid is like the only one that kind of knows what's going on, and the kid is talking nonsense, right? This is where we get the backstory of like what happened is like, yeah, whatever happened in the mine. When they came back, the dad was like super sick and like super hungry all the time. And whenever he tried to eat regular food, he would just like throw up blood. And so he had to eat like meat. And he knew he was sick, so he told the kids to lock him in this room. And then after a while, like he looks like he's having like, I guess drug withdrawals or something.
Very much so, yes.
But I mean, it's obviously worse than that. And after a while, the other kid that was with him in the mine is also starting to get sick, and so that's when they both get locked in there. But the other kid, the one that locked him in there, the one that we're introduced to in the beginning, he's not sick, so that's why they're doing it. But anyway, we got the background of like how it got to be where it is. And yeah, essentially, he's got like this hunger for meat that like never stops. And he's like, actually, like his chest like glows.
Yeah.
But like it's on fire all the time. Anyway, so at this point, they take the kid to the hospital, trying to like figure out what's going on, what is wrong with him, and Kerry Russell kind of feels like a kinship, like, this kid's, was abused, kind of like how we were abused. So like she wants to take him in. So they, as they're debating that whole thing, they end up talking to the old sheriff guy, and he tells him what this monster is because they describe it, right?
Well, she also has a drawing.
Right. Yeah. She got the kid, the drawing, because he drew it after it attacked the kid in the woods or whatever.
Right. And, and the old sheriff goes, "Is he native?" Right.
Which he's not. But anyway, so he shows him what it is, and then he tells him it's a Wendigo. Yes. Wendigo being the traditional native definition of Wendigo, which is someone who eats other human flesh and then becomes this monster that hungers forever and can never be fulfilled. So that's what we learn what the dad is, and whatever it is, he is now like fully this thing. He's not even, because before he was like would kind of go back and forth, but it appears that he ate enough to become this Wendigo now. So they basically decide that okay, we need to bring this kid somewhere safe. So they bring him back to, of course, Kerry Russell and Jesse Plemons' house. And they figure out like, okay, he might not be safe there. This monster might come there. So, he sends Rory Cochrane there to watch the house, because he has to go talk to the mayor because they need to like get ahead of this before the press gets a hold of it or whatever. So Rory Cochrane is, kind of, looking around on the property. He hears, noises and monster noises, and he goes to check out the shed. He finds the little kid like hiding in a basket of blankets. And he goes, "Oh, hey, little kid, what are you doing?" And then just gets gored by the Wendigo, which is just like this big, huge, like, I don't know, it looks like a werewolf with all kinds of like antlers all over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this kills him like immediately. So Jesse Plemons was they talking to him on the radio. So now he can't get a hold of him on the radio. So he's like, okay, I got to get there to find out what's going on. So he gets there. He gets all suited up in his bulletproof vest and everything. And then he goes out there. He sees the dead cop, and then he gets attacked. He gets like knocked against the wall and kind of sort of knocked unconscious. He wakes up enough to like lean up against the wall, and then it like gores him like through the wall, like through his arm. He shoots at it a couple of times and it leaves, but he's still like severely injured. And so Kerry Russell is in the house with the kid, hears all this kind of stuff, and she comes out to check on him. And of course he's like, severely injured, and she tries to like patch him up the best he can and bring him back in the house. And the kid is now gone. The other kid, the meth kid, is gone. So they're like, okay, well, they're going to the mines, right? Because that's where the whole thing started. So they're going to the mines. We have to go to the mines to end it. And Jesse Plemons is like, well, I'm coming with you. And she's like, you're like near dead. Like, you can't do anything. It's like, no, I'm coming with you anyway. So they drive to the mine, and then as they get to the mine, we see Jesse Plemons like unconscious, and then she finally calls the ambulance, but she just takes his gun and goes in to the mine alone. She goes into the mine, and of course, she goes past the medicine bag area, and she sees the kids like hiding behind, I don't know, some mine machinery or something. And then the big monster is there, like eating something. I don't know what it was. A bear. I think it was a bear. I think it looked like a bear. Anyway, it was eating something. So she's in there. Fight ensues. She shoots it a couple times. It doesn't really do much. They're fighting back and forth, and she manages to stab it and pull its heart out, and then stab the heart, and then whatever, extinguish it. But all it does is travel to the next sick person in the area, which is the other kid that was sick. So now that kid starts glowing, and then that kid is basically going to become the next Wendigo. And so then she has to convince the meth kid, yeah, I have to kill your brother too. And so she does.
Right.
And then she comes out, and then, Jesse Plemons ends up living. But then they, basically go back home, everybody's, healed up again. We see Jesse Plemons, he's in his cop uniform, but he's in a sling or whatever. And so everybody's kind of trying to live a normal life again. And then as the movie ends, we see Jesse Plemons start coughing up blood, which is the first stage of the sickness.
Correct.
Basically meaning that it's just going to start all over again.
Correct.
The end.
The end. This is your first time seeing it, right?
Yeah. No, it's been on my list because it's fairly new. It came out just the last
2021.
Yeah, I was gonna say last couple of years. It was on my list. I just never got around to
watching. What was your first thought on this being your first watch?
It was good. I mean, I gotta say the first 2/3 of the movie are great. I mean, the way that the kind of leading up, the mystery of what is happening, and like I said, because the kid, what's happening at the kid's house. Obviously, we know there's some kind of monster, something's wrong with his dad and his brother. We don't have no idea what it is because they don't show him at all. They just show him banging on the door. The only thing we see is a little tiny bit through the keyhole. So we see they're sick in some way, but we don't know why or what. And then the whole Carrie Russell and her brothers, kind of the tension there is played off really, really well. And the weird, whatever kind of abuse was happening to them and their house when they were growing up. I mean, again, there's a lot of subplots that are going on here that are really just adding a lot, again, you can see why she cares about that kid because again, it looks like he's being abused. And she was abused as a kid. So you see why she's caring, right? Why she is trying to go that extra mile to find out because she wishes someone would have done that with her when she was young. There's a lot of things that play off of each other, and I think the very end, that last third, it just kind of drops into action. Weirdly, the rest of the movie wasn't really leading down that road, and then it just ended up in an action thing. It ended up in the traditional horror action, whereas the first 2/3 of that was just kind of a psychological buildup. It wasn't bad. Yeah. I'm not saying the last third of it was bad. It was not bad. It was still good, but it was just it felt like a different movie. The first 2/3 feel different than the last third.
Yeah, the last third was defeating the monster.
Right.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, it was essentially when they get the kid back to the house, and then Rory Cochrane, gets attacked in the shed. From that point forward, it just feels like just a generic action story. So where there was no nuance at that point anymore. And then before that, it was nothing but nuance. It was nothing but multiple plot lines, stewing around with each other.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Yeah, for me, like I said, I never thought of it the last third being that way, but as you say it, yeah, I do see that. Oh, this is probably the second or third time I watched this. My initial thoughts was, "Holy crap, they're doing a Wendigo, they're doing it well." Um, which is, I think, rare. Wendigo has become such a more common thing. Like Teen Wolf, Supernatural,
Well,
Charm, even
yeah.
Hannibal.
Well, Wendigos in those contexts are usually just used as like an interchangeable term with werewolf, which is
Right.
not true. But I mean, again, in most of these, like, kind of, common pop culture world, like they'll say the word Wendigo, but they'll usually say it in the same sentence as werewolf, like as in they're the same thing, which is not true. But again, they get
Correct.
grouped together that way.
Right.
So yeah, it was nice to see
Um,
this one is just plain old Wendigo, no like weird werewolf stuff. It's just plain old Wendigo.
right. And even I know you haven't watched it, probably never will. The TV show Supernatural is they're in the Oregon area, and is people turn into Wendigos and then have to eat human flesh. So still a very that was true to it as well. Um, the only thing that this might be the low point is I don't recall, as my first thoughts was a Wendigo being transferred from person to person like that, like a disease.
Well, yeah, the thing that I was
Well,
confused
only one
about,
alive at a time. Yeah,
right? Yeah, the thing that I was confused about is like, okay, like what happened to the Wendigo that attacked them in the mine,
right.
right? Because obviously the two guys were cooking meth. Neither one of those is a Wendigo, right? So like something attacked them and made them into Wendigos. Like what happened to that one? Like they went back to the area. They went back to that same spot where they found it and it wasn't there. So like
Yeah,
does it transfer it or in some way? And if that's true, why didn't it transfer to the other people he was eating?
correct.
Yeah, I don't know. There was
It's
just there's confusion going on there. Again, yeah, it was a mystery enough to where like, I don't could it have happened a different way? Sure. It was just confusing as they never explained like what originally caused it to happen.
yes. I said and that's the only time I've ever seen it being. Yes, you can become a Wendigo by it, but a transfer is only one Wendigo at a time. It's always been a cautionary tale of cannibalism. Is the idea of Wendigos? It's usually always in the winter or a group of people lost in the woods that don't eat the flesh of man, or you become a Wendigo.
Right. But yeah,
That's
but it's like
that's the tale. Yeah,
right, but if there's like
that's
a
the
group,
lesson.
yeah, if there's a group of 10 people and they all eat people, then you have 10 Wendigos. Like you don't have just one,
Correct.
like you have 10. Like yeah, traditionally that's how the story goes. You become one when you eat human flesh.
Right, and that's the lesson learned from this tale is don't eat.
Yeah, don't
Don't
eat
eat human.
your friends. Don't eat your friends.
Right. Yes. All right. So, what are your highlights then?
Highlights. I gotta say, the acting is like fantastic. I mean, just about everybody in this, even the meth kid, does great. I would say
Yes.
the only one that I thought was like a little questionable was his little brother. But again, it's not really much there. He's really just there to look emaciated and sick. Like there's very few lines that he has, but the very few lines that he has are kind of not done well. But again, it's very, very minor. But everybody else, that kid, Kerry Russell, Jesse Plemons, I mean, everybody else is great. Like, I mean, does like above average great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Other than that, it was gonna be the bad ending. I love bad endings, and I like when
Oh,
things
absolutely.
don't end up because it seemed like it was like, well, obviously she had to kill the kids. So obviously, there wasn't like a happy ending. It wasn't going to be a happy ending regardless. Because yeah, like happy ending would be after the Wendigo is dead, the brother goes back to normal, right? He does not. He becomes a Wendigo. She has to kill him too in order to end the curse. And then not only that, but now Jesse Plemons is now her brother is now also going to become one too. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, I yeah, I agree with you. The acting was spot on. I like the creature effect too. The Wendigo is always portrayed as kind of being, dark and antlery. Obviously, he had like 50 antlers coming out of him all at the same time.
Right.
Um, but still, though, I said even with him, essentially he was wearing the face of the dad over its skull.
Right. Yeah. He
yeah,
peeled it off and then was wearing it like a mask.
right. Yeah, I said. I mean, we discussed this before. We'll discuss more. When creature effects are done really, really well, they're amazing. I think this is an example of that. It's not a full show, show of everything. You still see there's some mystery somewhat. The face kind of looked like Krampus to me.
Yeah, but it was but I mean, the mine was very, very dark. So like you never got a full light shot of this thing. It was always in the shadows.
Yeah, and that's good for creatures. You don't have to see the entirety of the creature for it to be, criticized or picked apart, because you can have fill in the blank stuff. You don't have to see the entirety of the creature. Yeah, do people want to see the creature in the creature movie? Yes, but it doesn't have to be like broad daylight. Here's the creature. I think that adds more to the mystery and intrigue of it.
Right.
And yes, they picked the perfect kid to look like a son of a meth head and starving and malnourished.
Like I said, it was like they nailed that casting. That kid looked exactly like that.
Right. What about low points for you?
Okay, so low points would be one, if you were the sheriff and you saw your deputy dead on the ground, you should call an officer down, right? I understand that this is a rural police area, right? I get that. You might not have another deputy, but like there are state police. Like there are people that you can call for backup. Like if your deputy has been murdered and there's something in the woods that can kill people, like why would you not immediately call for state support? Like, why would the mayor have not already called for state support, knowing all these murders that happened, that they just literally had that conversation? Like, other people should now be involved. The FBI is probably on their way there. You know what I mean? All of these like murders and weird stuff like that. Like, if you find a weird house with like multiple dead people that look like they were eaten in the house, like the FBI is on their way. But anyway, it was like
are coming,
right. I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like something is going on. At the very least, the state police should have been there, and he didn't even call the officer down. He didn't do anything. He just like was like, hey buddy, you okay? Like he's obviously dead. There's blood everywhere. He had a big hole in him. The dude is dead. He hasn't been answering his radio for the last 20 minutes. He's dead. Why are you not calling officer down? Why did you not call for backup as soon as you lost contact with him on the radio? It was bizarre. And then, okay, whatever reason he has for not calling then, right? Then he gets attacked later on. Okay, now him and his sister are in the house and they're planning on going to the mine. And again, he's like, oh, I'm coming with you. Okay, I get that you want to go with your sister. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but like, where is your backup, dude? Like, why are you not calling in the National Guard at this point? Like, hey, there's, my deputy is dead. I am like mortally wounded. I need backup immediately. Like people would be there, man. Like you're a federal employee, right? Well, actually, I mean, you're a local employee, but you report to federal, right? I mean, like, come on, man. There's going to be help involved somewhere. But again, he passes out. And the only time she calls an ambulance, she doesn't even try calling the police. She just said, oh, he needs an ambulance. Wait, you're just planning on doing this whole thing by yourself? Why are you not calling for help? Again, and then it will roll into the other one. The old sheriff, right? The old sheriff was just there to give you like a little exposition dump on what a Wendigo is, right? Because it has to come from a native person. And that was it. He leaves the movie after that. Like, again, like, okay, you're Jesse Plemons. You know this thing is a monster. You know it's coming after this kid. Why would you not go, hey, old sheriff, you want to come to the house to help protect me and this kid and my sister? Like, why would, again, like, I understand maybe, I don't want to call the state police. There's supernatural stuff. I don't want to look stupid. Okay, the old sheriff definitely knows what's going on. He's a sheriff. He knows how to shoot a gun at least. You know, he can at least help you in some way, shape, or form. Why would you not call him?
And he might know how to kill him.
Right. I'm just saying there's so many reasons.
Yeah.
There's so many reasons. Like, nobody called for backup. You had like multiple chances to call for backup. Never even bothered. And then again, this old sheriff guy, the one guy that you could call for backup, even if you don't want to call for federal aid, you didn't even bother calling him. I just don't get it. I mean, then obviously the whole, 2/3, 1/3 thing I already discussed, but that's not really, I would call it a low point. It was just off. It was just like a gear shift that I wasn't expecting. But yeah, just like, plot holes of like there is help available and no one is attempting to use it at all. That didn't even occur to them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that. My low point is something the wife brought up. She works in the school system. And if you believe a student is in some sort of trouble, you do not go to the house by yourself. Ever. And not tell anyone you're going to this house.
Well, I mean,
there's paperwork to be filled out. She should have said, "Hey, I'm going to this house," as opposed to Kerry Russell's character going, "I told her, and I think she was going there." Versus, "Hey, there's this." It's essentially a social case at that point in time that you always go with backup, even when you think there's abuse. You bring one of the cops with you in the report. That's how the procedures are supposed to go. Now, granted, I know it's a small mining community where everyone probably knows everyone else, but there's still procedures that you should follow. But obviously, they need to have a plot reason for her to go there, and she's just by herself, so they didn't add it to it.
Well, to be fair, her brother did say, "Why did you go there? What were you thinking? Why would you go there alone?" Like he knew that she made a mistake, so at least they realized they made that mistake.
I'm talking about the principal.
Well, yeah, that too. But I'm saying, like, at least that when she went there, they had some kind of idea. But like, in what world would the principal go to someone's house?
Never.
No, they would tell you to come to their school. They would never go to your house. A teacher, okay, I could see that happening. But a principal, no, there ain't no way in hell.
No. Other than that, the movie's great.
No, it's not a bad movie. I mean, I'm calling out obvious plot holes here because I can see them, but not a bad movie at all.
So, how many naked people in the woods out of 10 would you give this movie?
Antlers gets a 7.75 naked people in the woods.
Ooh, what's the 1/4 that you're missing? The feet?
No, that's the officer down.
No, I mean this is. I like this movie a lot. I've watched it, like I said, a few times since it's come out, and it's just a good movie to put on. On rewatches, do you notice anything in the background? Is there soft spot? No, there's not. There's not more on the rewatches that you'd get. But still a pretty solid movie, and I think done respectful of the Native Americans Wendigo lore and holding true to it, and going to Native American to get the lore information as opposed to just reading it in the book. I like that they tied it all back to what was thought of in Native American lore. So that's why to me it's a fantastic folk horror movie and lore movie just because of that. And for that reason, I'm giving 8.5 naked people in the woods out of 10. Could they have done the ending a little bit differently? Yeah. Could they have made it so it doesn't just only one active Wendigo at a time? Because that's less scary than like shit. There's like 10 of them, as you said earlier.
Well, yeah, but if there was 10 of them, again, without calling for help, they would have all just died.
Correct. And I also gave it a rating because of the bad ending. We love bad endings here in this podcast. I don't care if anyone else says. A bad ending done really well is amazing. All right. Shall we go across the pond for the last movie?
Sure.
All right. The last one we're discussing is Unwelcome, which came out this year, I
Yeah.
believe. 2023? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know
Oh,
when, but it was recently.
January. So we missed somehow this one, well, was under our radar, probably because it was, released in Ireland and the UK initially and not here. Until we got streaming services, right? Like Warner Brothers on HBO. So plot point wise, I'm gonna say this right now. It reminded me a bit of I can't think of it. Eden Lake, a bit.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, the beginning.
A
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. Well,
The beginning.
and the family.
Well, yeah.
And the family. So this takes place in the UK at this point in London. So we introduced to a young couple, who just found out that the wife is pregnant. The husband goes
Well,
to
Hannah John Common. You can't forget to say who she is.
Okay.
Do you know what else she's from?
Do I know what else she's from? No.
Oh, she's in the MCU. She's Ghost.
Yes. She looked very different in this movie.
Well, yeah. She's pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, she was also in the first time I saw her was in Killjoys, if you ever saw that show.
Yeah.
I watched it when it came out. I eventually stopped watching it. But when it first came out, it was pretty interesting, and she was like the main character. But that's the first thing I remember her from. But she did a lot of stuff, as you say, across the pond before then, which I didn't see. But that was the first American thing I saw her in.
Man, her eyes just look different in this movie.
Yeah, they've always looked like that. She is like a product of opposites. Her dad is Nigerian, and her mom is Norwegian. So she's like the opposites.
Yes. Oh, she was in a few episodes of Black Mirror, Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. So, yeah. I thought she looked familiar. I never looked it up until you said that. All right. So the husband goes and gets a bottle of champagne to celebrate, because what better way to celebrate find out you're pregnant than drinking?
Well, no, he does say it's non-alcoholic. He says it's Prosecco, it's non-alcoholic, and he says that right before he insults the soccer hooligans.
Yeah. So he wouldn't give him stuff, and yeah, okay, I'm pointing this out now. For a man who doesn't fight, he sure likes to get into fights.
Okay, now, all right, I'm not gonna name names, but I have a friend of mine I've known for many years who is just like that. Yeah, huge mouth, right? Talks all kinds of shit. Like, we'll do that same thing when it comes down to fights. Nope. Run, hide, do whatever you can to avoid it. But he got a huge mouth up until that point. So I'm very familiar with this type of person. Not defending it at all. I'm just saying I'm familiar.
Yeah. So, yeah, essentially he insults them, and then he kind of walks away. And they end up following him, and you see her confirming the P test that she's still pregnant in like the most claustrophobic closet. Oh, she was supposed to.
It looked like it was like a creepy bar bathroom stall in their house.
It was, yeah.
But here's the thing that I don't understand is the very first scene of the movie is they show her like peeing on the stick, and she was not in that stall.
No,
she was in a regular bathroom. And then all of a sudden later on, she goes to the bathroom again, and they have an apartment. So like they have at least 2 bathrooms in this apartment apparently. One like claustrophobic, like weird stall bathroom,
3 foot
and then
by 3 foot.
yeah, and then like a weird like normal bathroom. So I was like very confused as to what was happening at first.
Yeah. I was like, where is she? You put her in a box. And she hears her husband being attacked outside. She goes to check on him, and they are severely beaten up. She's not really. She's
she's just traumatized.
She's traumatized. It's like I said, it's just imagine these hooligans and the family they're on as the hoodlums from Eden Lake, and pretty much that's how they are. That's how I picture them being the same.
Well, I mean that's how the hooligans are in the UK. That's right. Just the way they act.
And the leader's like, okay, do you have what it takes? Like, here's the knife. Put it to my tough ass. Put your throat to the knife. Well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Nothing. And the Jamie, the husband, can't do anything. He's just kind of left there to watch, see what psychological torture is being done to his wife. And then then they move, because rightfully so. Like, I would move too.
Well, yeah, yes, you definitely move. That is one thing you should definitely do. If you've been attacked in your own home, yes, you should move away.
You move, absolutely. They end up going to Ireland, and he gets the house from his great aunt. That explains the age then. His great aunt after she died. What a coincidence! What fortune! And it's a nice rural house. I would say,
with the hole in the roof.
With the hole in the roof, but yes, they're trying to fix it. They try to find some local builders to fix it. They kind of found it the Whalen or Daddy.
They find the Whalens who has Hodor.
Hodor, yeah. Derby Girl.
Right. Yeah, Hodor, Derby
South
Girl.
African haircut brother.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Diane word brother.
Diane.
And then the dad, who was from Star Trek, he was like the newer Scotty.
Correct.
Cole Meany is, I think, his name.
He's also Charlie Day's dad, and It's Always Sunny, but he's like, call me Daddy.
Right.
Yeah, so, they go to the bar, say, hey, we're new in town, and, like, everyone, like, when they find out she's, like, extremely pregnant, like, I would say, like, hugely pregnant, like, stomach sticks out, like, 2 feet at least in front of her.
Well, yeah, that's like, if you want somebody to look extremely pregnant in a fake way, that is exactly what you do.
Yes.
You take not one basketball, it's like 2 basketballs.
Right. And like everyone stares at them like, oh, here. And like staring at the pregnant one, like, okay, this is where it's just getting the folklore, like the unwelcome part of it. And like, oh no, ha ha ha. And like talking about it, like, yeah, that Whalen family, screw them, they suck. Don't do anything with them. They meet up with the great aunt's friend. They go, hey, you need to leave out an offering every night for the Red Caps, because without it, they can attack you. You have that kind of a stone wall wood gate that leads into, guess what? The woods. Recurring theme, folk horror and folklore. The woods being evil, all that jazz. Yeah, so they're talking about that. Let's see here. They find out. They meet the local drunk who warns them and tell them all these superstitious stuff, who seems to really believe all that stuff while other people don't too, other than the aunt's friend. He goes missing on his stumble back home. They kind of hear rumors that they visit the tomb, the grave of the great aunt, meet a priest. We found out that Maya had an abortion. They don't say it outright, but she had an abortion. And then Jamie's great aunt daughter, she's just a stone in in the grave because they never found the body. The great aunt said it's because there was a deal made with the Redcaps in exchange for her husband to live, give up her newborn. But everyone just kind of in the town believes that the great aunt killed her child, her baby. And then we see the old drunk getting attacked, but we don't see by what. And the dog runs away because he's a good boy. She's a good girl. And then I think we cut to them, the drinking. They wake up and they hear voices inside their house. I'm like, oh shit, here we go again. No, it's just the Whalens already started work. They kind of let themselves in, and they're just kind of, I'd say, assholes.
Well, yeah.
They start, moving their stuff. You can see, the daughter of Daddy kind of starts playing with the husband, trying to flirt with him, wiggle his drawstring on his pants or robe right there, and the brother's trying to hit on the wife, saying you're beautiful, blah blah blah. And they kept trying to call Mr. Whalen, his name. He goes, "Call me Daddy, call me Daddy." Just I don't know how many times he say that, like 80 times.
Well, he gets more angry every time. Like he gets upset, like "Call me Daddy." Like he's very upset.
Yeah, and the oldest son, Hodor, who is seemingly just typecast as the big idiot.
Like again, I feel kind of bad for him. Yeah, playing the simpleton in this.
Yes. Not as big as one as Hodor. We find out he doesn't seem to talk, but we do find out later he's perfectly capable of speaking perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But clearly abused. So yeah, they just start doing more stuff. They go through their change pan, I guess that's there, stealing money. The brother leaves a giant crap in the toilet, and they're just wreaking havoc and also acting like hooligans. The younger brother and sister, saying that they had different mothers because the mother died giving birth to Hodor.
Well, it's Hodor would have to be the youngest then.
He would be, but in real life, he's definitely not.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying.
So then, we see that Maya does put out an offering. She hears scratching the door. She opens the door, nothing's there, and she goes back to the plate, which is like 2 feet to her right. It's taken. So there's something there. And then she's lured to the woods by the good girl because she hears her barking and kind of follows her. I guess kind of finds the
one thing that the note before this point is she did not leave out the offering the night before, and that's when the drunk guy got attacked.
Yes,
just to clarify.
Yes, there's a search party for him. They're trying to search for him. Maya goes in the woods and finds in the woods of Ireland, England, the old country, Oregon, this area. Pacific Northwest, all the trees are generally just haphazardly thrown about. When you start seeing them in perfect straight rows, then evil is there because no one plants trees in straight rows.
Or at least, some organization means that some form of something is there. Structure,
intelligence, yeah. So she finds an old stone hut led to her by the dog. Dog's like, all right, yeah, you gotta come down here with me. She's like, nope.
Yeah, she's like, see you later.
Poor dog, just trying to, find her master. She's a good girl. Yeah, it's just more stuff kind of happening. She sees next morning the Hodor kind of spying on her through the window, but he means no harm. He kind of breaks their window, putting up scaffolding, and they're just like, ha ha ha, we broke your window. What are you gonna do about it? Like, you're supposed to be fixing the house, not destroying it.
Yeah, but then we see the dad start beating the crap out of Hodor. because he did that. So yeah, it looks like he always blames Hodor when everything goes wrong, but it seems to be the other two that are constantly causing all the
Right. And Jamie tries to stand up. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna tell your dad." He did. Like, okay, I'll take care of it. Don't you worry. I know how they are. Blah blah. Oh, and then Hodor, after he gets beaten, kind of just runs into the forest. Maya goes after him. And that's when he starts talking. He's like, "My dad always hits me." He pulls up the side of his shirt. He's bruised a lot. And then she's talking this nice things to him, and then he gets the wrong idea because he's a simple man.
well, I'm pretty sure that was the only time he was ever shown kindness by, well, probably anyone, but definitely a female.
Yes. He gets the wrong intentions and seemingly rapes her. Seemingly. Or something happens, right?
Well, it's a reverse Lenny.
Yeah.
It's a reverse Lenny that happens.
Yeah. So and then, she comes out of the woods seemingly in a mess, but she can't seem to describe what happened. She doesn't say anything. They can't find him. It's like, because he was told he had to walk home anyway. And when they, Daddy and the other two leave, she tells her husband, Jamie, about what she saw. And it's the red caps. They're real. I tried taking a picture of it, but it's blurry. It's like, no. That can't be it. Let's see. And then he goes, he's like, whatever. He's like, I'm going to go to the pub. And starts getting drunk. And then.
Well, she describes what happens. She says that he tried to rape her. She kneed him in the balls. And then he fell down, but that made him angry. And then he started choking her. And then she screamed for help. And then she says the red caps came up and killed him and dragged him away. And so that's when the Jamie is like, okay, you're obviously got pregnant brain, whatever. She actually brings him out to the woods to show him, and there's nothing there. She's like, look, there's blood on the ground, and there's nothing there. So she's like, okay, you got pregnant brain. I don't know what's going on, but I can't deal with this shit right now. So I'm going to go leave and go drink.
I'm going to get drunk. Yeah.
Right.
Then at the bar, the brother and sister are there. He starts shit again. But the Great Hat's friend had to stop him because he runs his mouth and can't do anything about it. He just immediately cowers after saying really stupid shit.
Yeah. But yeah, essentially at this point they're looking for their brother because he's missing. They can't find him, and they know the last place he was their house. So they're trying to get information out of him, and he's being difficult.
Right. Yes.
Because, he doesn't really know what happens to him, but of course he's not going to tell him the story that the wife told him.
Right.
But yeah, meanwhile, the wife is at home, kind of jumping at shadows. And then finally a red cap comes in the house holding a plastic, convenience store bag and hands her the bag and then walks out. And she looks in the bag and it's Hodor's head.
Yes.
And she's like, "Oh shit! what do I do now? Now he's definitely dead. My story is true. This is bad." So Jamie gets home. She shows the bag to him, and they're like, "Oh shit! This is really bad." What do we do? And of course, right then, the Whelans show up, looking for their, not only the son but their brother, right? So they're banging on the door, trying to get in, and he's lock it, and he's like, you go hide, take that bag out of here and go hide. So she runs upstairs. They get I think the dad gets in the front door, and so she's freaks out, and she tries to leave out the window, climb down the scaffolding that they had put up to fix the roof. As she's climbing down the scaffolding, the girl comes up behind her and goes, "Hey!" And she just goes, "Oh!" and throws the bag directly at her. Literally, tosses it right into her hand. And so of course she looks in the bag, and now she sees the head is there. So now they're like, oh, okay, you killed our family. So then it's like a war, right? So now they're like fighting each other, and they're all like trying to run through the house. They're trying to like hide, and they're putting furniture in front of doors, and there's knives, and, horrible things happening. But they're essentially like keeping their own, but they're getting the crap beat out of them, right? So essentially, it gets to the point to where the husband is going to die, like he is getting hurt very, very badly. And so then she basically, Maya runs out and runs into the woods and starts screaming for help. And she goes to their little hut that the dog led her to earlier. She goes all the way down there. And now it's like, it looks like a little, I don't know, like a hobbit house, I guess. Like it's like an evil hobbit house. If you picture like, blood and bones and, and then, but it's small, like a hobbit house. Anyway. So yeah, there's all kinds of little red cap goblins down there. And she also finds this like lady, like an old lady, like a normal human lady. It basically figures out that this is the daughter that the great aunt had left out for the red caps, however many years ago that was. And she's like, their queen, I guess, right?
Yeah.
It seems like that's
she's the red cap queen.
Yeah, she's like the leader of them anyway. So she like almost immediately just attacks her. I mean, of course, there's words back and forth, basically saying like, I'm not going to help you, or whatever.
Does she attack you? I thought the attack's later.
No, the attacks are like right away. Like literally, she's only in one scene.
No, that's later. After the fact, after all this stuff happens at the house.
No, it's happening at the house. That's why she needs to help.
Yeah. Okay.
So that she attacks the lady and kills the queen. And then it cuts back to Jamie getting the crap beat out of him in the house. So the house is now on fire. And he's got the crap beat out of him, and he's going to get the gun to like finish him off. And then that's when the goblins come in and they start attacking everybody.
Yeah, it was. She goes into the hut and kills all the women after the baby's taken. It's after the fact. I think she just calls for help, and hears the whisperings. It says, "I'll do whatever you want to help save my husband and save us." That's then that's when the red caps come and kill, the brother and sister, and Maya ends up killing dad, and then she gives birth, and then bring the baby home. She leaves it in its crib. And then the red caps come and take it. Then she goes into the woods to stop it, kills the Red Queen, and takes over as a spot after she kills a couple of red caps.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the red caps come and help her, and Jamie once again is unable to pull a trigger. He's unable to do anything really. Now, partially because he's kind of messed up. He's been stabbed at least once or twice.
Oh yeah, he was stabbed like in the back, and then he was stabbed. I don't know. He's in a bad way. He's in a bad shape.
Right. Yeah. Now we're talking about the shotgun that Daddy has with buckshot. Is it very accurate to say you have to be very close to do any kind of damage?
Well, he says bird shot. I mean, depends on the gun. It depends on the shot, I guess. But I mean, sure. But like, okay,
right, because
remember when Dick Cheney shot that guy in the face?
Yeah,
and he lived, even though it was like almost point blank range. That was birdshot. Right. That's why he survived. Yeah, it is not as dangerous. It's still not nice to get shot by, obviously, but it's not as dangerous.
Lots of bullets to take out, shots to take out of you.
Well, yeah, because birdshot is like, you picture the shotgun shell is right. It's just a plastic cartridge with a bunch of little like BBs inside of it. Birdshot is like a bunch of little tiny BBs. So as you got buckshot, they got all kinds of different gauges of buckshot, just like they have all kinds of gauges for earrings and shit. Like they use the same terminology. So if you have like, double dot buck is like big old balls in there. There's only like 5 or 6 big old BBs, which will hurt like shit. I mean, that's like shooting 5 bullets out. So whereas like birdshot is like getting hit with a whole bunch of BBs at the same time. Yeah, it's not going to be pleasant.
Right. Because, Jamie gets shot decently close range. Great, let's say, grazes his arm.
Right.
Not all full blast of it, but and Daddy's like, oh, if I run and kill you, I have to be really, really close to you. And she gets the gun close enough and shoots off half his face.
Yep.
Daddy's face. So then, that's it. She gives birth during all of this, at home, and decides to go to the hospital later that day. Everything's taken care of. They're all patched up. Baby is taken. Then she goes, okay, I'm not letting this stand for this. She goes to their house, to the Red Cap hut, goes in the basement, sees her baby there, kind of like being held by the old baby. She realizes like she's talking almost baby talk or limited speech like the Red Caps have. It's not full sentences. She's like, all right, I'm going to kill, puts a knife. She's like, oh, do I have the stakes? Flashbacks to the hooligans, that kills one of them. And then, like, crushes the skull of their queen, which was the great aunt's baby. Takes her baby. And, the Red Caps kind of follow her. And then they start worshiping her. And then she gets bathed with the blood from their queen and essentially becomes their new Red Cap queen.
Yeah, from a magical floating skull ball.
Yes. Well, they show they have powers that can make things float. So, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Oh, well, she gives the baby back to Jamie, and then it's insinuated that she's going to leave and go be the Red Queen, while Jamie deals with the baby by himself.
I don't know, 'cause it's very ambiguous at the end. Whether she's actually staying there or she's become the Red Queen and Red Cap Queen and also be a mother.
Well, I'm pretty sure when she drenches herself in blood, she made the choice. I'm pretty sure that's like the Red Cap ritual.
Yes. So what? I'll go with my first thoughts first. Is I didn't realize there's gonna be Red Caps, which are part of the Fae Court, that in general folklore and Fae Courts is they get their Red Caps because they essentially wear the scalps of their victims.
Well, they're not necessarily. Depends. It depends on the culture, but they're red because they're soaked in blood.
Right.
Yeah, so not a nice reason to have a red hat.
Correct. And I think kind of the folk lore in this is fairly accurate because when you make deals with the Fae Court, is you generally do have to give something up. You have to do a favor. You have to don't always know what the payment is going to be until after the fact. You just have to agree to it sight unseen, and that's, I'd say, the case in this as well. I don't think she knew exactly what they're going to want, but clearly, I mean, we knew as the audience they're going to want the baby. I think we were expecting that the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, the problem here is that the Fae Court has been done in so many different ways and so many different popular culture things that there's no way. I mean, you'd have to go back to like the old books to try to figure out what the real legends are, because there's so much misinformation now.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, Fae, it's still not a wildly popular in culture, but still has been done a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're talking. I mean, how many book series have fairies in them? How many TV shows?
Dresden Files is a big one.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're talking TV shows. I mean, yeah, like True Blood and Supernatural and all that stuff. They have all these different versions of things, and they take like the little bits that they like, and they make whole stories about them, and they cut out all the stuff they don't like. So there's a whole lot of misinformation about what things mean and what the legends are supposed to be.
Yeah. But I still liked it enough, and I realized I don't think I've ever seen red caps in a movie like this. I don't recall it.
Well, not as being called red caps. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there's some Irish movies or UK
Right.
movies that I haven't seen. But as far as American movies, yes, I'm sure you're correct.
So it was interesting to see this. What were your first thoughts on this?
Um, it was good. I mean, I was more annoyed with the whole like pregnancy thing. Like everything was about the stupid pregnancy. It is annoying to me. Um,
Yeah,
and Jamie was just so annoying. Like,
insufferable. Yeah,
it's like, like he was like so on edge and like again like basically forcing all of these situations to be like bad confrontations, and then when they turn into bad confrontations, he just immediately cowers out of it. So it's like he's
right.
getting the worst of all worlds, but he's like literally like driving people to hate him with how he's reacting to stuff. And then when they force a confrontation, then he like cowers away. But
Right.
then the first chance he gets after that, he again is trying to like, ignite anger in people. Like I don't get what he was doing. Like he's just terrible.
Yes.
It was very
Yeah, he
annoying.
was.
And that and like the whole like just this pregnancy thing. That like everything was about the stupid pregnancy. Like every conversation circled back to that again and again and again. It's like I get it.
Right. Well, what are highlights for you?
Um okay, I really liked the beginning. I really liked that switch up between oh yay, we're pregnant. Isn't it such a good thing? It's so happy. And then they just immediately get home invasion and it turns horribly bad. That was a highlight to me.
Right.
It's like, oh, there's so many stupid movies out there with these like, yay, we're pregnant. It's so happy. It's such a good time. And like, I like when that gets ruined. I like
So a
when it
bad
turns
beginning.
sour. Yeah.
Yes.
um, I like that. I mean, the red caps themselves were pretty cool. I thought they were well done. They were again, they were, interesting. It's they're kind of like you know, I guess like what do you call it? Like munchies or ghoulies or in that vein. But they're definitely a modern, well done version of that.
Yes.
But yeah, I like the implementation of them. And then of course Molly. Molly was super cool.
Yeah. Good old Molly. Good girl.
Who survived? She didn't die. Like almost every other movie, the freaking dog dies. She does. She lived.
Well, especially when it went into the red cap home. Like, oh,
But
we're gonna have two
it
movies.
kept coming
two
back.
movies
I was
on
like,
this list.
oh,
I
okay.
know. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Highlights for me. Like I thought Maya did a great job, and let's face it, Jamie did a great job of us absolutely despising him.
Well, yeah, acting wise, yeah, just his character was just
Yeah.
annoying.
Right. Um. Correct. And they were the Whelan family were all terrible people, and you felt like they were terrible people. Like, okay, I hate them. I looked at the brother like, oh, it's his haircut. I can't stand it.
Well, yeah,
He's a bad guy.
you looked at him and he's like, yeah, he's got the bad haircut. And he's wearing the tracksuit. You're like, oh, this is not good. Like this is gonna end
Right.
badly.
Right. I said, and just the different take, so different take, but the lore of it. I really like folk horror for that reason. Honestly, like I said, the recaps have been done. I don't really pay attention to the recaps in like True Blood or Supernatural, but I do enjoy them in the Dresden Files series. And these were kind of very akin to that. And from a little bit of research about it seems to be pretty close to what the accepted red cap lore is.
Well, yeah, again, yeah, red caps are basically served to be when people think of fairies. Obviously, they think
Right.
of little people that have little like dragonfly wings that fly around and are try to like, just run away when you find them, but they're like, carefree, like a Tinkerbell, right? Like
Right.
have like magic,
Yeah.
but they run away, and there's stuff like that. That's what people generally think of fairies. But yeah, like in Irish, folklore, well, and that whole Celtic folklore, yeah, there's all kinds of different fairies. Like there's, like I said, there's a whole court of different kinds of them, and the red caps basically serve to be like the opposite of what you would assume a fairy is. So where the red caps are like the warriors and the violent version of that. Like, yeah, they're small people, but they're like violent, and they're proud of their violence. But again, red caps because their hats are soaked in blood. Like that's why they're red.
Right.
So yeah, it serves as a nice offset, because again, when people hear fairy, they definitely have a vision in their head, and the red caps are definitely not that. So
You'd argue that Rumpelstiltskin is part of that lore too.
Well, yeah,
it's not
anything like
the favors are not without a price.
Yeah, they're like monkey.
It's not the
monkey
fairy
paw
godmother that grants you, right. It's not your 3 wishes and I'm just so good and pleasant. No, generally the fae are not good creatures.
Well, I would say at best they're mischievous. At best they're mischievous. At their worst, they're homicidal.
They trick you to get whatever they want.
Right. Yeah. At no point in there are they lawful good.
No, not at all. What about low points for you?
Low points. I mean, obviously Jamie, like,
yes,
just like ridiculously annoying. Again, just they waited a really, really, really long time to like call or like go to the hospital or like call for any kind of help. Like they had multiple opportunities to like call for help. I know they kept doing like, I don't have signal, but like, there's no way they did not have signal the entire time. Like that's not possible. Because like all this stuff was happening for a long time, and like she manages to like run away from the situation for a decent amount of time. Like, why didn't she just run somewhere with a signal to call the police or to call an ambulance to come take her to the hospital?
Right.
But instead, she runs to the magic door to try to get little fairy people to help her. Like, okay, lady, there's like real help available if you go the other way.
Correct.
But I mean, I guess it worked for her.
Yeah. For me, definitely Jamie. I said after we watched The Wife Goes, I feel really bad saying it, but he needs to man up. Like, yeah.
Like, yeah, well, and then he gets left with the baby. I was like, I feel bad for that kid.
Yeah. Yeah, like he's under the bed hiding, and like he's falling asleep, and there's like, wakes up like, oh crap, I have a wife. I forgot about her.
Jeez.
And he had no redemption. Zero redemption in this movie. Not even a moment of him doing something good.
No, he's just an
going
ass.
to be an asshole.
Yeah. He's just an ass the whole time.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this is a bad thing. If they were going for a matriarchal spin that mothers can do it all, they nailed it. Do I think it was done well? Not necessarily. Like, was she a strong woman? Absolutely. But you can still have some balance in there too. She didn't have to do. I don't think she had to do everything. So Jamie didn't get any redemption. He's just going to keep doing what he does with no like realization that he is the problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, it also speaks volumes about her. Like, why are you excited to be having a child with this guy?
Right.
The guy's an ass. She was talking about, I had an abortion when I was younger because he was not a right guy, right? He was going to be a bad father. It was going to be a bad time. Like, I totally get it. Like, why would you be excited with this douchebag? Like, this guy is
no way.
Yeah, like he's not violent and abusive, but this guy is like causing all kinds of problems. Like, he's the reason why that home invasion happened, and I think she knows that.
Oh yeah. There's no way she didn't see his ass get kicked for his mouth before.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, if they were together for any length of time, I'm sure they were drunk in a bar and he was talking shit to some dude, and he got the crap beat out of him.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, it's just he was a big little boy.
I'm very, very sorry. This is a UK movie. It's the pub. They were in the pub, not a bar.
Pub, yes, correct. You know, the whistling dog or the pretty pony,
the prancing pony, the pretty pony.
The prance.
What pubs are you going to? Oh, I'm sure there is.
It's probably a brony bar.
You know what? I'm sure there is one. I don't think I want to know where it is.
So, all right. So, how many naked people in the woods out of 10 would you give this?
I will give this movie 5 naked people in the woods out of 10.
Yeah. I don't know what I was expecting this movie. It's definitely not the movie that I watched. I don't think I need to watch this again either.
Yeah, I'm not upset that I watched it, but it's not something I need to watch again.
Yeah, and for that, I'm also going to 5 naked people in the woods out of 10. I mean, like I said, I like the idea of the lore. I like the idea of them going to the more violent side of folk tales and folk horror. I want more like this. I don't want anyone to be dissuaded to not make anything like this. I want people to show the truly terrible side of folk tales and folk horror, because they are bad. So, all right. Well, that brings us to the end of this episode. So, parlez-vous français? In case you can't tell, let's the heads roll as we get graphic again with the new French extremities. We shall see if Escargot is the only French list that makes her stomachs turn with movies including High Tension, Inside, and Martyrs. As we prefaced on the last week episode, this episode was a break between the horribleness that is that we had this month so far.
Don't let your wife watch these movies.
No, not at all. She didn't watch the ones last week. She's probably not watching.
I'm just saying, don't do it.
Yeah, it's. Like I said, we were discussing before this. I think I've seen one of these. It's been a very long time, so I'm excited to see these. And I know a couple of them have gotten remixed, so we might do those as a feature episode as well.
Yeah, but the American remakes are very toned down. I mean, the same spirit. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that they're like totally different, but yeah, they take those really like wild haymakers that these movies do, and they tone them down a bit.
Yeah, these 3 movies in particular have been on many lists that I have seen of like, holy crap, this is terrible. Like, not terrible movies, but like terrible and sickening to watch.
Yeah,
so
bad things happen to good people in these movies.
Right. So, you know, we had our American movies, our Video Nasties in the 70s that we did last week, and we're going to the late 2000s.
Okay, yeah. The new French Extremity was the direct response to the PG-13 horror craze in the U.S. Okay, because all of the horror movies were being very light and very kind of playful, again, that PG-13, kind of plague, I'll call it, that was in the early 2000s, right? Where everything was not nearly as, scary, bloody, gory that it used to be. It was kind of, evening out and becoming, rounded edges, we'll say. And again, the new French Extremity was they wanted to go back to hard hitting, like hard to watch stuff. And that was the extreme that they went to. And that's why they did it.
And that makes sense. I think the American turn away from that was the Saw franchise and Eli Roth.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. The Americans definitely did swing back again. I mean, after because basically it was like things picked up in other countries. I mean, Japanese picked up their versions of horror. Japanese horror got very popular around that time. Again, French horror. I mean, a lot of things got more popular at that point in time because again, the American versions were pretty generic. Again, like I said, all the edges were being rounded off. Nothing, no chances were being taken. They were very basic, very generic movies, and it was a genre that kind of demands horrible things to happen once in a while to move the genre forward, and it wasn't happening in the US at that time, so all these other countries were forcing it in different ways. And this is we'll see what the French version of it was next week.
Yeah, we did the American version. We did with Argento and Fulci. We're doing the Italian versions, and we're doing the French versions then. So on top of that, remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.